This is Counsel Cast, and I'm your host, Karin Conroy, your Marketing Co-Counsel. In every episode, I discuss marketing topics with experts who answer your questions and help your law firm achieve next-level results. Here's today's guest.
Hi, I'm David Griffiths, David the Digital Creator, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Hi, David. So glad to have you on the show today. And this is a topic we haven't had in a few episodes. We're going to talk about social media. And I know this is your expertise. So the topic for today, or the title for today's show, is Why Law Firms Fail on Social Media and How to Get Heard. So let's first talk about what everyone is doing wrong on social media. What is the first thing when you first start talking to someone and you're looking at their social media accounts? What's the thing that you see over and over and over that you say, oh, there it is again. There it is again. It's this thing that everybody has the wrong idea about.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And I will say it reminds me of me when I was starting out.
Yeah.
I was on YouTube for 13 years and I had a grand total of 100 followers.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah.
It's all the three figures.
Yeah. So I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And I was frustrated because I'm a gospel recording artist and I was told oh, you need to get on social media and you need to develop your fan base. And so I was there and I was missing something.
Yeah.
And so now with over 1.5 million followers between my different platforms, I get it.
Yes.
I
okay.
had the wrong focus.
Nice. Okay. I love this story because that's the story everybody wants, right? And they really want that first part of the story to be like a week. They really want to kind of run through the struggle and the hard part of that story. But that's the whole point. And that's what we're talking about with social media. And I feel like the story is perfect because YouTube is what everyone is talking about these days, especially even for this podcast. YouTube is where we get the best following, the most engagement, but it is tricky, right? It's not just, hey, show up, throw some stuff on YouTube, and, tomorrow you are some major influencer. So tell us a little bit more about the story and all that stuff that you were doing wrong.
Well, I think it can be evidenced by what I see on Facebook.
Yeah.
I love Facebook.
Yeah.
I have lots of high school friends who are on Facebook, and I love when they show me pictures of Jilly and Susie and the ballet recital and their vacation in the south of France. It's great.
Right.
However, social media like that is not what helps businesses.
Right. Yes. Okay. There is I'm just going to underline that for a second because I feel like that's kind of this light bulb moment. There's a big difference in the way you present yourself personally on social media and the way you present yourself professionally. Right? So when did you figure that out? And let's actually stay in the struggle kind of story moment part for a moment. What did it look like when you were doing it all wrong and you had your 100 followers?
It looked really cool for myself and my family.
Yeah.
So I'm a musician. So other people who were in my group, they were loving it.
Yeah. Right.
Because it was about us.
Yeah.
Right. But now imagine that you want to serve a particular community.
Mm-hmm.
Is it about them or is it about you?
Yeah.
So I believe when we're successful on social media, we figure out clearly who it is we want to serve. What is their big problem, their painful problem that keeps them up late at night? And then what is our unique solution? And how do we then let them know, hey, we can help you with that thing that's hurting you?
Yes.
And let that be the theme of your content creation. So yes, let people know authentically who you are. Let them know where you once were and where you've come to now, but let it all be in the light of how you can provide that valuable service to soothe that painful problem that avatar is experiencing. Yeah.
That is such a good, like, just dose of marketing strategy right there. And I wanted to back up for a minute because you and I were talking about how, like, obviously you had this YouTube channel for years and years, and I've been doing this for years and years. And when I first started doing websites for law firms, it was an entirely different service. It was a different product. It was a different process. Everything we talked about was different. And it was more along the lines of presenting the firm in the same way that like a brochure would. And in the long run, they eventually started calling those websites brochure websites, and not in a complimentary way, like in a way that was saying like, that's not what you want. But way back, that was the answer. And social media has gone through even more major changes from what it used to be versus what it is now. And I think a lot of the time, people kind of figured out one thing years ago, like maybe decades ago, and then they've never really changed their thinking about it. And they're still doing that thing, thinking, why doesn't that work? And, is everybody else just lying about their success and whatever? So it's not that you're totally wrong. It's just that you're sort of dated. And like this thinking about it has changed completely. And we never used to talk about personas and avatars and the marketing strategy. And I think as time has gone on with the internet and everything, we all have become more sophisticated in what we're looking for, what we expect, and all of that stuff. And so that's where we expect a website or a social media account or a business to understand my problem and to have a solution for that problem. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be like, hey, I need some shoes. I'm going to go to Nordstrom. And, I would assume that Nordstrom would have them, but I would have to kind of find that answer versus having Nordstrom present it to me. So that's a really long-winded way of saying, like, things have really changed. And let's talk about that change in light of how you figured out to make it work for you.
Okay, so let me give an example of a change even in the last 2 years on a platform, and then show how I'm adapting, what that means to me, how I'm adapting, and then how that might resonate with someone in your audience.
Okay.
And I should say, first of all, if there's over 8 billion people in the world and over 5 billion of them are online, then like we're competing with so many more people than we ever did before.
Yes.
And so nowadays we do not have the luxury of kind of getting it right.
Right.
In other words, because there's this device and it's here and it's speaking to you 24/7.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's some people who are really good at hooking your attention with curiosity invoking things visually or auditorily. And so they're doing it, and there's millions of them.
Right.
And they all have access to the same people that you want to serve. So you then need to figure out what's the strategy that works now, what is important to the platform that I'm on now, and let me leverage it. So a few years back when I was getting started on TikTok, where I have over 1.2 million followers, they were promoting going live. So I found something interesting. By the time I got to 1,000 followers, which is when you can go live, I said, well, I'm a gospel musician. Let me play hymns by request. And so I would play hymns by request. The interesting thing that would happen is when I was done 20, 30 minutes playing hymns by request, I'd have 200 to 300 more followers. And whatever the last post I made before I went live would get a bunch of views.
Nice.
Oh, so TikTok, this is what you're promoting right now.
Yeah.
So why don't I do that like all day long? So in the morning, I would play hymns. In the evening, I would play hymns. If I was free at lunchtime, I'd go live. And then after using that strategy, I was able to get a large following. And then I'm going to interject something here. Sometimes you need to know how to use a platform like TikTok to help you grow on YouTube.
Okay.
Right. So I would, at the end of my lives, I would say, hey, well, I would really like to get to 1,000 followers on YouTube. If you don't mind, can you help me out by following David Griffiths' music on YouTube? It would mean the world to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then in a couple months, I had 1,000 followers on YouTube by leveraging TikTok.
Did you offer, like, did you say, hey, like, did you have any kind of offer? Did you just flat out ask? You didn't have any like, hey, there's more saw, there whatever hymns and whatever on YouTube. It was just, hey, could you please go follow me on YouTube?
What you just said is very wise. If you offer someone a reward, that's good.
Yeah.
But the reward for the people was they were grateful for what I did. And me asking them to help me, they were like, oh yeah, let's help Dave.
Okay.
So that was the reward for them.
Were you doing the hymns by request? So you had just kind of done a hymn for a certain person, and then your ask in return was sort of, hey, can you go follow me on YouTube?
I did. So it's not, I didn't directly after Bill says, hey, can you play Abide With Me?
Yeah.
So, oh, did you enjoy that?
Hey, Bill. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't overtly. It was at the end. I was saying, thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you're subscribed so the next time I go live. And I would like your help with something. And then I would.
Okay. And the reason I asked it that way is because I have a lot of faith, I guess is the right word I'm looking for, in this idea of sort of a feeling of obligation. So, reciprocity, obligation. So like at Costco, when you get the free samples, they're not doing it just out of the goodness of their heart. They know that it drives sales. Right. And so by giving, and you're probably not likely to buy that thing if you didn't just have the sample. And so that's why I was kind of driving at the way that you did it. I was wondering if it was sort of like, hey, I provided this thing for you. And in return, could you go over and like me on YouTube? Because that is a good marketing method where you're providing some sort of insight, expertise, something of value, whatever it is for that person. And then you ask for something in return. Like even this is a great way to get reviews and like comments on your stuff and things like that, where it's kind of a low bar, that you're asking for, just a follow or a comment or a like or something like that.
I think you are absolutely right. That is the case. I call it reciprocity.
Yeah.
But, you're absolutely right. Like you give someone something and they're grateful. And so they feel like they want to do something back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So to finish your first question, so that was what was popular on TikTok a few years ago, going live. And
how many years ago do you think that was? Like 5 or less?
2 years ago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that was really popular. It's 2025, 3 years ago.
Okay.
So that was really popular. Yeah. However, today, when you go live on TikTok, the algorithm helps you a little bit. Not like, suddenly I get 200 or 300 followers. It's a little bit of help. But nowadays, they've done a couple things differently than back then, and they've given you different tools than you had back then. Back then, I was doing my own research, figuring out what was working.
Yeah.
And I can talk more about that because I don't want to forget to answer your question. So nowadays, they're promoting long form content because they're trying to compete with YouTube.
Yeah.
And so they offer you the ability to record for a very long time. And if you have content that's longer, like 3 minutes rather than 20 to 60 seconds like before, then actually you get more love for that.
Okay. So TikTok is kind of pushing that a little bit more.
And they have a feature where they'll actually show you for your account, they're going to do the equivalent of what I was doing with research. So they'll actually give you recommendations of the kind of post that you can make, the topic that will do really well.
That they're expecting will do well. Okay.
So if you paid attention to what happened before, and you today we're going live, going like, okay, where David said he used to go live and he used to get hundreds of followers. Where are they?
Yeah, exactly.
You would be highly disappointed because the landscape has changed.
I think that's sort of the theme of everything we're going to talk about, is just paying attention to the fact that the landscape is constantly changing. I like to bring up Clubhouse because it had such a flash in the pan. And there's times when I try to bring up Clubhouse and I can't even remember what it was called. And so I'm actually proud of myself today for remembering the name of it. But if you all remember, that was the big thing during COVID. And it was this sort of weird live podcasty thing, audio only. I actually have one woman that I follow that still does it. She does financial stuff. And I think she's like the last woman standing on that platform. So she's still doing okay. And obviously she wouldn't do it if it wasn't worthwhile for her.
Yeah.
But I checked into Clubhouse. It did nothing for me. And I moved along. So one of the other lessons I want to focus on and we can talk about is knowing when it's time to sort of step away from something that's not working. Because I feel like that's something people put way too much time and effort into things on social media that just are not working.
Hmm.
Did
Wow.
you try any platforms over all of your years of doing this where you realized like it's, I'm just going to guess, maybe LinkedIn is not your top platform. I don't know. Did you try Clubhouse? And then at what point do you realize like, okay, no, that's not worth my time?
One of my clients was upset at me because he invited me to something on Clubhouse. She's like, remember, I invited you to the thing and you never responded. I'm like, oh,
Right?
because I
Yeah.
wasn't on Clubhouse. And now
No. If I
I
have to download another app and it's not happening.
now I have a new friend from doing a podcast, and he has a community on Clubhouse. So I
Oh,
went,
no.
I joined and I went live, and he goes live every day. He
Oh,
has
my
like
gosh.
700 people in his community. So Mark, shout out to you. Get
Mark
ready
is
to do
probably not
business
listening
deal.
to my podcast.
I'm just saying, but but
I quickly realized that Clubhouse was not where my people are. And, I have that kind of personality where I just make decisions and move on. And, it is in the past, and so much in the past that I can't even remember the name of that place sometimes. But I feel like there's a lot of people that just get this FOMO or the grass is greener, or they see someone down the road doing something and they're getting all the success, and they assume that they should be able to get the same amount of success. So how do you know? Do you have any suggestions or thoughts about like how to know when to cut your losses?
yes, this is my only suggestion. I'm sure you have some good ones, and I'd be curious to hear what yours are. There's so much information these days. Our world is changing rapidly, exponentially rapidly. So for you to be the expert on 15 things is not likely.
Yeah.
So I would recommend you have a mentor
Yes.
and you get wisdom from your mentor.
Yeah.
So I'll adapt this. I'm hoping those in your audience, they can receive that and get the best mentor.
Yep.
I was just having a conversation today. So make sure that your mentor aligns with your values.
Yep.
And has results.
Yes.
So make sure of that. But so on your way to having a mentorship of some kind, another way to have mentorship, people follow your podcast. So maybe you have 5 experts in what it is that you need to know, and you're listening to their podcast and they're giving you wisdom, and then you're making decisions based upon that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mentorship is key.
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about transformation and about social media.
Yeah.
Now, I have a master's in vocal performance, gospel recording artist. I enjoy that. And that was maybe the first chapter of my life.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I'm obsessively, in a positive sense, ingesting and processing through information about social media, so that, because I love it first, and then so that I can do it better and I can help and coach other people to do it better. And so I'm more likely then to become aware of something because this is my jam.
Yes, exactly.
If there was a legal thing, I might ask you.
No, I'm not the lawyer. Those are my clients. But the one thing I wanted to add about mentorship, because I feel like that's such good advice, is that half of the time, it's just that voice that's just going to kind of shut it down. So like if you're saying something and you're going down a path of something where it's not really based in logic or data or realistic expectations, the mentor is just going to kind of call that out and say, okay, what is this? You need to stop with that. And why do you care so much about Clubhouse? Why do you keep going back there? And, couldn't that time be better used on this other platform where you're seeing growth and you're seeing things change and you're getting interactions? And so that was the only thing I wanted to add about mentorship is it's sort of that I'm having a hard time finding the right words for it, but sort of that like harsh reality voice. And that's what, for me, what I was looking for when I've found coaches and mentors is someone who's just going to look at all my stuff and say, no to this part. And yes, this is the stuff that's working. And let's fine tune that. And let's not waste time on this other stuff. So, okay. So coming back to what you were saying a minute ago about how you are obsessed with social media and this is your jam and this is what you're talking about, what is the latest and greatest? What is on the radar for this coming year that people may not be aware of or should just be putting more thought and effort into?
There's one that comes to mind, and then others may follow suit. So we have been in an environment. Okay, let me go a little history-wise. Okay, so Instagram 1.0, everyone had these beautiful professional pictures.
Yes.
And they were photoshopped. It was wonderful. And then people who were managing your profile, they looked at your brand colors and they made sure everything was pretty.
Yes.
And then it was all unrealistic, but it was pretty.
Yeah.
And it was the dream life that you created anytime you got in front of the professional camera.
Exactly.
Well, TikTok was the rebellion against that perfection, where on TikTok, you could just use your phone. You could just be you.
Yeah. And you're sitting there in your pajamas and it doesn't necessarily match your brand colors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because of the success of TikTok, thank you God for TikTok. I'm grateful because TikTok then allowed Instagram Reels to become what they are now. So I can get organic reach on Instagram and Reels.
Yes.
Like, I don't have to, Instagram previously, they'd show it to some of your followers, and if they got excited, they'd, expand the circle and so on.
Right.
Whereas on TikTok, they were showing it to strangers.
Yes.
And then judging. So that TikTok has helped us like immensely. So when we're on shorts on YouTube or on Reels on Facebook.
That's all been driven by TikTok. None of that stuff would have happened if it weren't for TikTok.
And that was the rebellion against the choreographed perfection.
Yes, the hyper realistic, overly produced, fake looking, because nobody wants to, it doesn't feel like it's attainable. And so it just feels overwhelming. And then you quickly just shut that down. When it feels real and authentic and like, this is a person sitting in their pajamas, but they're giving me valuable information, I'm going to trust that more. So that was another thing I wanted to talk about, is how you build trust. And I feel like this is a good transition between that difference where it was like so overly filtered and produced and fake looking, to the point where like there was all those accounts that would point out when pictures, especially back in the day when Instagram was like mostly just still pictures, where like they were all fake and photoshopped, and you could see like the fake hand and the fake arm, and like that's my favorite. I love that stuff because I'm like, oh gosh, that's embarrassing for you. Like you have 6 fingers.
Yeah.
I just saw a law firm website where their bio pictures were clearly like really badly photoshopped, and there was a hand that looked like a claw. It didn't even look human. And they had I was like, what are you doing? Just crop it out. Nobody needs to see the hand. It's so stupid. And now it just makes you look totally suspect. And you're a law firm. If there's anything people want to know is that they can trust you and you know what you're talking about. And when you got this weird fake hand thing on your bio picture, instantly I'm like, whoa. Back up. I don't know about this. I'm going to go back to Google and find the next answer. So I can look at stuff on websites all day long and find those things that are like degrading the trust and degrading their brand. How do you do that on social media? What things build or ruin your trust with your audience?
So interestingly, and it's an extension of your previous question. Currently, what's the new thing? Currently on YouTube, we have a move towards content which doesn't have all of the jump cuts that we're used to.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there, his name is escaping me, but there's this bodybuilder and he's like the poster child for this.
Yeah.
He literally just makes these long form videos where he's just talking. It's like a vlog and there's no production value. And then he blew up.
Nice.
And then other people started seeing that. And so now you see more and more of these kinds of things where people are talking. They don't have the captions. Yep. And literally, though, that's the counter revolution now that here in 2025. that kind of long form content is doing well on YouTube. And it develops trust because it's sincere.
Yeah.
It's, it's not
Fake.
not produced to the
Yeah.
point where you feel that
I feel like that's a similar story to what you were saying about Instagram and TikTok came in the same revolution where people just want that authentic story. And I'm wondering because when I start thinking about the top YouTubers, these, multi-million, Mr. Beast, there's some travel people that I love to follow that have multi-millions of followers, but their stuff is very like it's edited by professionals. It is very beautifully done. And on one hand, when it comes to travel stuff, I love the really beautiful photos and things like that. But do you think in the long term, the more simple produced, authentic kinds of videos are going to start to rise to the top in YouTube?
Yes, but I would like to, if it's possible, draw a distinction.
Yes.
So if you are going to do something and it's going to be this over the top.
Yeah.
Let's take Mr. Beast, this over the top immersive experience.
Yeah.
Then we want all, give me all of that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But if I want to connect with you, right, and hear your message and then see if I trust you to help me with something, I don't need all of that.
Oh, that's interesting. So Mr. Beast is kind of just entertainment.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And what we're talking about, once again, we're kind of talking about putting a line between stuff that I want for me personally versus professionally. So as a professional, if I'm going on YouTube and I'm looking for the kind of services you and I provide, I'm looking for something different. I'm not necessarily looking for the super hyper edited, over the top, almost sort of fake feeling production value.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like, and that gives me hope because it's like, obviously we put this video on YouTube and we do not do jump cuts. We do not do like a super, involved kind of production. We just throw it on YouTube. I put some nice, graphics and stuff. But if I had to do that level of production for every episode, it wouldn't happen. It's not realistic. But it still does pretty well. And that does kind of explain that difference that you're describing between sort of a professional service that people are looking for and that presentation versus like the entertainment side of things, which also like your personal stuff sort of fits in that same bucket. Like you were describing on Facebook, like people showing the pictures of their vacations and their kids and all that stuff. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So, we talked about what was different in the past versus what's different now. We talked a lot about building trust. Let's talk about platforms for just a minute. We've talked about YouTube, TikTok, Clubhouse. Can you talk about how to decide which platforms to use and why some might be better and who they're better for and how to decide?
TikTok, Snapchat would be for the younger crowd.
Yeah.
Okay. And something to keep in mind, on TikTok, you could post 8 or 10 times in a day if you wanted to. People wouldn't get sick of it.
Yeah.
On Instagram, if you did that, people would be upset.
Yeah.
People would unfollow you.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, you can post once or twice a day and be cool. I have a fortunate situation because I do morning and evening prayers. Those kind of don't count. I get to do those and still I get to do a couple things in between.
Okay.
Collaborative things, right? So
but you figured out over the time that that's what your audience wants. Yes. And they will allow for it. If you had done that, all of those posts, and it was not working, I'm assuming you would have said, okay, well, let me pull back and figure out a different plan.
Yeah, I noticed like at the point, so my journey has been, I believe in laser beam focusing on one platform, mastering it, learning the culture and the technique of how to do content, and then go to your next platform. All right. So let's say, since I did it on TikTok first, now when I came over here to Instagram, I noticed it's like I'm getting the next generation up, right? So I'm getting some older people. Yeah. They're not as forgiving in terms of, we want to, we just give us more and more. They're not like, right? Yeah. So then I even had some people say like, Yeah, I got tired. They just keep
I
showing.
was just going to say, the older people are just tired.
Yeah. And I was like,
slow
wow.
down.
Okay. So I'm not going to go so hot and heavy over here. On Instagram. Yeah, I got to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Whereas over on Facebook, then we're getting to even older people.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so if I wanted, okay, so my sweet spot in terms of supporting people with social media, connecting to the people they want to serve, is the faith-based community and tech challenge community.
Yes.
So the tech challenge people who might be in their 40s or 50s, hey,
are on Facebook.
Yeah, I find them on Facebook. I find them on Instagram too, but I
Sure.
really find them on Facebook. In fact, here's something interesting. Recently, I like to do this. I don't think I did it last year, but I like to do it on a regular basis, figure out what is it that my online community wants from me.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, I said, hey, in 2025, what's some cool things that you want us to do together that we haven't done?
And how did you do this? Because I think this is really smart to try to figure this out. Did you just do this within a short video, or did you post about it, or what was your method?
I did.
Or during a live?
Multiple. I did multiple. No, I didn't do a live.
Okay.
Which I could have done a live.
Yeah.
But quite honestly, bandwidth-wise, it was just easier for me to do posts. But my problem in answering you is I think I did it a little bit differently on each platform.
Okay, which makes sense.
Yeah, but in general, I did a post.
Okay.
Sometimes I've done a poll, but with the poll, you're giving options and you don't have as many choices. And so I just asked for the feedback. And so I took all the feedback and I took it to ChatGPT and I said, okay, categorize stuff and make a list.
Nice.
And the interesting thing for me was, as I snatched the different responses on Facebook, I got these long responses and people were like, hey, I have a piece of land in North Carolina. Let's have a praise and worship bonfire. And I was like, oh, cool. And someone responded to that. Hey, I'm in Northern California. I got an acre out here. Why don't y'all come out here too? And but I didn't get that on TikTok.
No.
Or LinkedIn or YouTube.
No.
So Facebook is definitely for that older
different
demographic.
crowd.
And they want to talk a lot more than people in other places.
Totally. Yeah, that's hilarious. Okay, so you basically put out this post and you said, what do you want to see in 2025? And then you got some useful feedback.
Yeah, I got tons of feedback. And so then now I can go back and say, all right, here's what it is you said that you wanted.
Yes.
And so then I said, and so this week I'm saying, all right, I'd love to do these things, but I need some volunteers.
Yeah.
So I've had five volunteers sign up so far, but I'm going to ask again this week for a couple more days and see if I could get maybe 10 and then use that group of people to help me to establish those things. And so now I'm developing community, right?
Yes. That's exactly what I was just going to say. Now you've got this totally engaged group and it kind of ripples out from there usually. You get that core group that's you can really depend on, but then they start to pull other people in and they have these sub conversations and all of that. And it really, that's when you've kind of hit, the rubber has hit the road and you're like making some really great progress. Okay, so it is time for the book review. I know you've got a really good one to recommend today. If you are just catching up with the show, there's a whole library of books that all of our guests have recommended a book. So there's all kinds of amazing resources. And if you want to know who recommended it and why and what it's related to, it's all on the website. So take a look at that. But David, what's the book that you want to recommend today?
It's by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan, I would say many would say is the GOAT in terms of high-level business coaches.
Yeah.
10X is easier than 2X.
I love this book. I was talking to somebody about this recently, and I think it's so true. But what I find is that it's hard to imagine 10X until you've kind of read this book. And so people feel like it's easier to sort of set those short-term goals. But I don't want to step all over your description of the book. Tell me what you like about it.
Let me walk through my pain. Maybe it will resonate with someone else's pain.
Yeah.
I get excited about learning cool things. That's good, right? That's good.
Yeah.
However, that means that I am prone to shiny new objects.
Yes. Yeah.
And I keep hearing over and over and over again from people like, Alex Hermosi.
Oh,
I won't even
yeah.
go on the whole list of people. They
Yeah.
say one offer,
Yep.
one avatar,
Yes.
one platform.
Yep.
And they say it in different ways. They say work on the business, not in the business,
Yeah.
and then you'll see it scale to 7 figures instead of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And so I'm committed to that this year, but I struggled with that for the last several years,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what my thing is. And so herein lies, I think, some of the beauty of this book. If you want to be a 10x version, there's only a few ways that you can get there.
Yeah.
So Dr. Benjamin Hardy gave the example, I believe, of his son who was looking for a coach for tennis. And then the question was asked, well, is he trying to, get into college, with a scholarship, or does he want to be a pro?
Yeah.
Because the difference is, if you just want to play a little bit better, there's probably thousands of people who can help you.
Yeah.
If you want to get into a scholarship to a good college program, maybe hundreds, but there might be 10. There might be a very small number of people who could help you to become a professional if that's your goal. And so the beauty of having this unbelievable, impossible goal is that the ways to get there are few and far between.
Yes.
And if you make the commitment to the 10x version, you'll actually be surprised at how you're able to grow more rapidly than you expect, because you get rid of the distracting ideas that would keep you from growing at the best possible rate.
I love that part, especially that last part that you were describing, that basically if you've decided that you want the 10x, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, I'm good with 2. I'm good just kind of plugging along, having my life, doing my thing. And that's fine. But if that path to the 2x is going to get in the way of your 10x path if you do choose that 10x path. So you can't just do the 2x path and then just do it more. The stuff that you're doing on that 2x path is keeping you from the 10x.
That is so true. Let me give you an example. Maybe this might be helpful to people. So there are many things that I've been blessed to learn how to do. And to make ends meet as an entrepreneur, I'm tempted to do all of them.
Right. Yes.
But what often happens, so imagine what we described earlier in terms of how I enjoy being an expert on social media, digital marketing, because it's my jam.
Yeah.
I fixate on it.
And you've had success with it.
Yes, but imagine now you ask me to be your photographer. Now,
right.
I do photography for my clients, but if I wanted to get a magazine cover,
right,
I'm not going to take my phone and try to take my own picture. I'm going to go find the person who that's their obsession.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So if we have 8, 10, 12 things that we do, we're going to be diluted among them.
Yes.
Whereas if we're able to focus in on that core 1 or maybe 2, then we can become world-class. We can become an expert at that. And that, I think, is like the parallel to this 10X concept where, oh, okay, so if you want to be that 10X version, you can't spend all your time and energy and resources on these other things because they take away from the ultimate.
And they take away from sort of the brand of that also, because you want to be known for that one thing. When I finished my MBA and I was first starting this business a million years ago, and I started working exclusively with law firms, the number of my classmates that said, but you know so much about marketing, why are you limiting yourself? And I'm like, first of all, do you know how many lawyers there are? There are many, many, many lawyers. And second of all, did you pay attention in marketing class? Because this is the point. But it's this kind of scarcity mindset and this feeling that you're going to somehow make less by being more focused. But then anytime anyone I know talked to somebody who was a lawyer and they needed something about marketing, I'm the person they all know. And they only know one person like me. And so, all of a sudden, that's what I'm known for. And that's easy for them, all of the leads and the referrals to flow to me because It's such a clear and easy definition. So I'm a living proof for how that works, and 100%. And that book, I just want to also add this. The book we'll add on the show page, and we'll link to it and all that stuff, because it's a really good kind of theory about this idea of kind of focusing on like your specialty, what you're good at, and also making it really successful. It's not a way to just make life easy and whatever, but to be more successful because of it. Okay, so David, we started this new kind of section to the podcast where when people are done listening to this episode, I want to have one or two things for them to think about getting done, a kind of action item that they should think about doing after this episode is over. What's the first thing that you're thinking that they should be thinking about?
I think that they should get really clear on who it is that they serve and who it is they wish to serve if it's not who it is they're currently serving.
Yeah.
And do a deep dive. Nowadays, my goodness, we have so many little AI tools to help us.
Yes. And
I'll be honest with you, like that's part of my secret sauce now.
Yep.
Like I don't need to take everything to the team members. I'm like, okay, Claude, what do you think? Okay, chat, what do you think? All right,
exactly.
Perplexity, what do you think?
Right.
How about you, Gemini?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And so I'm able to find out what are the pain points of these people that I wish to serve. What are their problems? What are their aspirations? And I can ask the people and I can ask AI as well, right?
Yes.
So I could go on, I can do like those polls as, and I would recommend you do those as story posts, like especially on Instagram or on, Instagram is very robust with all the stuff it allows you to do in your stories, but you can make however you choose to do it. Just get data from your audience and data from AI.
Yes.
And put it together, and then you will know more clearly how you need to proceed, what kind of content you need to create, what kinds of solutions, right? I think the first step is get really clear on who it is that you are focused on serving.
So and the thing I just want to kind of underline there is most lawyers are going to say that they know right away. As soon as you say that, they're going to say, I know who it is I want to serve. And I'm not, and I don't think this should suggest like you want to serve people who just had a DUI or you want to serve people, going through a divorce. You need to get more specific and more narrow than that. You want to serve people who are going through a DUI of a certain demographic in a certain area. And if you've been doing this for more than a week, you already know the first couple questions they ask every time they call. And so let's dig into those questions. Why are they asking? Are they asking how much it costs? Well, okay, so then we already know that they're very concerned about the finances. So we're going to address that somewhere in your social media for sure, probably on your website as well. Or do they care about if they're seeking a divorce? Do they care about their kids? Or do they care about what is it that they care the most about? And those are the pain points that you were referencing. So don't just keep it so kind of surface level as your practice area. We're not talking about just your practice area. We're talking about the people that you've had as clients in the past that you consider your ideal clients, the ones who automatically see value in you. They come back maybe over and over, depending on what your practice area is, and that they're a pleasure to work with. And so you want to have more clients and more work like that. So I just wanted to kind of encourage people to dig a little deeper than just like, as soon as you said, who are you serving? It's not that just basic stuff. Let's get a little bit better than that.
Let's do psychographics and demographics.
Yes, exactly.
So my story to lend to what you're saying is, so I was actually not probably far from where you are in California. I went, I think it was 2 years ago, Brendan Bouchard had a coaches conference out there.
Oh, nice.
And my partner Danny and I went out there, and one of the exercises he gave us was, all right, I want you to go live. When we leave, go live and tell people why it is that you think coaching is really valuable. And then make an offer. Say, hey, I'm opening up my schedule. I only have 3 slots, but if you're interested, DM me.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, okay, well, let me do this, right?
Yeah.
So I went back to my Airbnb and I got some good lighting and I did it.
Yeah.
And in less than an hour, someone reached out to me. And then when I followed up with him, I said, wow, you just reached out really quickly. What was it?
Yeah.
He said, well, in what you were saying, you told a story about when you were teaching middle school and how in the early afternoon your feet would start to swell and hurt and how you were hoping to not have that experience by working for yourself. And my feet swell. So now catch this.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with my offer.
Right.
It had to do with the fact that here is a painful experience that this person had that I talked about that resonated, that
and you connected.
caused them to act.
Yep. That's
so you
amazing.
cannot underestimate the power of you getting really specific and knowing the actual pains of the specific individuals.
Yes.
Right? That you seek to serve.
Yes. So it's not just, hey, you just had a DUI, which, you see these commercials all the time that are so poorly done. And it's like, hey, if you've been hurt in an injury, call this phone number. Or you just had a DUI, call this phone number. And it's not about you've been hurt in a car accident or something, and you have lost your wages. You may have lost your job. Your family is, it's not all these things that are the actual pain that person is going through. It's just like that super surface level. So just don't do that, because that's not connecting on any level. It's just basically trying to throw out a super wide net and, hope the phone rings. That's not what we're talking about at all. You need to get in there and talk about how this problem has created that pain in their life, which as a lawyer, like this, it's obvious. This isn't just like, buying a pair of shoes. They've got real pains that they need your help with. So put together the messaging in the language of their pain so that they know right away that you get it and you have the answer for them. Yeah. Awesome. David Griffiths is the CEO of Content Creating Academy. And of course, we will link to your YouTube and TikTok channels, because I know after this conversation, people are going to want to check it out and listen to everything that you've suggested, because there's so many good stories in there. Thank you so much. This was an awesome episode.
You're very welcome. I had fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Counsel Cast podcast. Be sure to visit our website at counsel-cast.com for the resources mentioned on the episode and to give us your feedback. If you enjoyed this episode, I would appreciate if you could rate and review the podcast on Apple and subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. See you on the next one.